Hi everyone, it's Thursday night, South African time, 9 o'clock. Welcome to Handicap Rugby Chat that matters. I stress South African time because all of us watching on South Africa, we've got some in Europe, and then believe it or not, once again, we've got a guest who's got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to join us from Australia. I can tell you this man absolutely loves his rugby. His team, the Reds, are flying high in Super Rugby AU. And it's a welcome to Mitch from the Rugby Fixation podcast. Mitch, great to have you back on the show, mate.
Yeah, thanks very much, Brent. It's great to be back on, and great to do it without any audio issues this time. But yeah, loving how the Reds are going at the moment. Riding the wave, and one more game, if they can get the unbeaten season, I think Bradford will be stoked with how their team's looking come the finals. So looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see your opinion, and also we'll touch on obviously how they're going to go this weekend as well. But yeah, you and I were chatting briefly. Last time you came on, we had a few audio issues, and I was telling you my Wi-Fi was so bad. I mean, people must have got tired of me moaning about it. But I want to touch wood here, but the last few shows I've actually been able to hear my guests, and I really enjoyed the shows. Like previously, I've just been watching their lips, trying to see when they stop talking. And when I watch this man's lips, I can tell you they're very seldom without a glass pressed against it. And it's a good old conductor, Brendan Vessels. Brendan, good to have you on the show.
Thanks, Brenty. Yeah, life's too short not to have a good glass of wine or a beer or a whiskey with you at all times. So, thanks. Always good to be joining you boys and chatting about the Ruggers tonight. Hopefully I can undo a bit of the damage that I did last week. It wasn't a great week in terms of Super Rugby Aotearoa tipping. It was a bit poor that way. But luckily my Gallagher Premiership stuff saved me a bit. But yeah, hoping for a better Super Rugby weekend this weekend.
Excellent. We're looking forward to it. Welcome, of course, to all the guys in the live chat. I saw Mark was on earlier. I saw his comment came on even before the show started. So good to have you on board, Mark. Look forward to chatting. I am, as you can see, going to be using player bets prices tonight, generally speaking, where they priced up. But guys, the usual rules apply. You can talk about anywhere you want, including, of course, any Australian bookmakers you got. And just before we start, Mitch, I know in Australia you've got Sportsbet AU. But how many bookmakers do you have? Because I can tell you in South Africa now we've got literally probably 50 online bookmakers now. How big is it in Australia?
It is taking off a fair bit, and I think the marketing's really blown up. I know they've got Mark Wahlberg in to do a lot of the ads for Ladbrokes, which is one of the big Australian ones that is pumping up a bit. Neds has been really big as well, and Bet365, which isn't Australia-based, but is quite big over here as well, just in terms of covering all markets. But I think Sportsbet's still the predominant one if we're going to be using them.
Yeah, okay, now excellent. Well, let's get into the game. We'll start off with the New Zealand game because that's, of course, first tomorrow morning South African time. And I'll stay with you here, Mitch. We've got the Chiefs up against the Hurricanes. I can tell you the line here at Player Bets is -5.5 the Chiefs. Most of the punters that I've spoken to, though, expect a close game and are, in fact, leaning many of them towards the Hurricanes, including Thoughts on Sports, who's given us some of his selections to put up as well. What are your thoughts here?
Well, so I was looking at this one probably 3 hours ago. It would have been getting the last numbers, and it's -6.5 on Sportsbet, which I thought was very good odds to take. But I'd probably be going on the Hurricanes +6.5 because the Chiefs haven't won many matches by more than 6 points. All their wins so far have been really tight affairs, and I don't really see that changing, especially with Brent Gatlin brought into 10. I think he's a very controlled player, but he's not an exciting player. He doesn't bring that same spark that Mackenzie does at 10. And they're without Quinter as well, so they're just going to lose a little bit of that attack. So I'd think the Chiefs would win, but it'd be so tight that I'd like the look of that Hurricanes line.
Right, well, I'm just bringing your thoughts on sports bets. I mean, he likes the Canes, certainly. I think he was also on it at +6.5. There is +6.5 available still. And he also likes a bit of an unders play points. But let's see what the conductor thinks of this one. I saw some head nodding there. Conductor, can I assume you're going to rubber stamp the Hurricanes plus?
Yeah, Brent, I think I very much agree with what Mitch has said there. I think if you look at their last 3 games, I think they've come back from being down in the last 3 results to win it against the Hurricanes. I think they scored a try on the 78th minute, I think, to win it. I think last week they were sort of only took the lead late in the game, and I think the previous game as well, they only took the lead late against the Blues. I think they scored a try very late in the game with Damien McKenzie doing a swivel. So I don't think they've been dominant in terms of their games. I think Luke Jacobson's a bit of a big miss for them. He'll be out now. I think what Mitch says, I agree completely. I would have kept Damien McKenzie at 10. I know he's not at 10, but I prefer him to Brent Gatlin. I don't really rate Brent Gatlin I don't rate him to take the line on. And if you look at that Hurricanes backline, it is super dangerous with Rayasi. Luamapi is still actually almost back to his best at the moment. Got a guy like Geordie Barrett who can thump the ball a mile. He's a 3-point danger from anywhere on the pitch, or from 55 meters out, 60 meters out. So it's difficult to write off this Hurricanes team. I agree with what Mitch is saying and what Thoughts and Sports is saying. I'm leaning towards the +6.5. My only concern is, that was my first scenario. My only concern is apparently there's going to be a lot of rain in Hamilton, which could affect the points unders. I think it's Paul Williams, I think, is the rep for that game. So I might want to look at unders there. But, in the other camp, you've got Chiefs who could, I don't know how they've done it. Chiefs were absolutely like a leprosy case in the previous tournaments. Nobody wanted to touch them. But suddenly they could actually qualify for the finals here. So if they beat the Canes with bonus points and Blues get nothing in Christchurch, Chiefs qualify for the final without having to take any points away in Auckland. So there's big incentive for them in that game. But I still lean Canes +6.5, +5.5. My only concern on the Canes plus is Duplessis Karifi. Yeah, I love the guy. I love his ambition, but man, he just gives away penalties like there's no tomorrow. Odyssey Sevilla would have been great there, but I'd probably still take Canes on the plus there.
Excellent. Well, I can tell you, I am looking at the unders points play as well. I'll keep an eye on conditions. When I wrote the preview on the Good for the Game website, I actually ended up going for that bet. I know Thoughts on Sports likes it quite a lot. I'm not saying he likes it for this game, but I have a team by 7 or less. So as long as no one wins by 8 points or more, and that was at just shy of 15-10, 29-20, I think it was. I thought that was a decent bet in this game because, like you guys, I do fancy the Hurricanes on the handicap. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to have a close game. I think this could be another typical New Zealand game, which goes down to the wire there. So that's my thinking on that. Anything else, Mitch, on this? Anybody you fancy maybe to cross the whitewash at any point in this game?
Yeah, so 2 players that I could be a little bit sneaky money, I guess. Lachlan Boshier, he's now scored in 5 consecutive games. Not that it's overly likely for a back rower to get 6 on the trot, but if you're looking for a back rower that does get involved a lot, he's pretty good. I think he was paying around $3.50 the last time I checked for a try. The other one that I think should be looked at is Peter Umunga Jensen. He's had a pretty quiet season based off last year, but according to Instagram, he's finally been able to get his first child back home. So they're all sort of settled in now. I think there was a lot of paternal leave and going to the hospitals and all that. So now that maybe set back up at home, he's had a full season to train and get prepared. He's really got to press that All Blacks case because he got very close last year and hasn't really been informed. So I'm backing him to try and get a try this week.
Excellent. Well, welcome to a couple of the other guys joining in the live chat, the Crow Tips and Cerebral Assassin. Not the greatest pronunciation from me there. But let's get into the other games. Just a reminder that Couch Critics previews are up on the Good for the Game website. I don't have a slide to take you through his bets at the end of the show tonight, but you can log down below. You can go to the Good for the Game forum and also see what's happening there. Let's get on to the next game then, and that takes place Sunday morning South African time. And the conductor, I'm going to start with you here. We've got a handicap Crusaders -6.5 against the Blues. I think there was some 5.5 perhaps early doors. If I'm not mistaken, I haven't been following the markets too closely, but I think it's moved out of it.
Yeah, Brent, this is another tough game to try and take a stab at. I mean, I think Crusaders were incredibly poor last week. It just looks like they're getting stuck in the midfield. It doesn't look like David Havili and Lester Fanganuku is the answer. I think they're just missing a guy like Braden Eno and a Goodhue there at centres. Whenever it goes centres, it looks like it's getting stuck for them. Severies was totally impotent whenever you got the ball. It just didn't look like the old Crusaders. Saying that, I probably wouldn't touch the handicap here. I'd probably take a Crusaders 0.50 in multis. They're in Christchurch. Their record there speaks for themselves. They'll have Luke Whitelock, Sam Whitelock back for them. Callum Grace was also rested, and Cody Taylor will be starting. Look, I think with the crowd, I mean, they'll be G'd up for the game. That's probably the biggest involved I'll get in this game. It's a tough one. It also depends on what happens in the Chiefs game prior, what the Blues mentality will be like. Like I said, if Chiefs win at the bonus points, Blues are out of it. So who knows what they're going to do. Blues have been totally underwhelming for me. haven't been great. Yeah, some very poor, clearly poor performance last week against I think it was the Highlanders. Yeah, I mean, I really expected them to dominate. Man alive, they were, and we were even joking about, complaining about the Blues letting us down, that morning, and really, just the brainness. Look, I mean, I don't want to say it, but when Tom Robinson went off with that head knock, I actually feared the worst, because he actually had a bit of decision making. When Otaria Black takes over, I worry, and that really showed that decision making was poor. And with the Alex Hodgman red card, the discipline in the Blues team just never seems to improve. And I just don't understand what it is with the Blues. If it's just ingrained in them that they just don't want to be disciplined. I really thought Liam McDonald needs to make it like an example of one of the Blues players, because he's not changing their style of play. He's not changing the way they look at games, the mentality, the discipline. That Hodgman, it wasn't like a disclosed red card. It was a filthy red card. So
that was a bad one.
Yeah, so I'll take Crusaders 0.50 there on the boards and multis rather than the 6.5.
Yeah, well, Chris Rose saying, will the Crusaders play 4 games in a row? And I guess often, as punters, you tend to think like that. I mean, probably the fact that they've played 3 off-coloured games probably means there's a good chance they can play 4 in a row. But the way us punters tend to think is the Crusaders have been poor, and we might be getting a better price on them now than we normally would. And I'm also expecting a bit of a bounce back from the Crusaders. This is a team that is used to winning, and they know when to perform at the business end of tournaments. I'm expecting them to potentially come back. But Mitch, look forward to your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, this game's been probably the hardest one to call, and the one I'm the least inclined to put any money on, just looking at the team's form and how up in the air they are. At $1.48, I wouldn't mind a Crusaders outright win. The only reason being that I can't see the team list changing too much, but as Brendan said, the outside centre role is a big issue for them, as is the open side flanker. I just don't think they've found the right balance there, because Tom Sanders put in a shift last week, but he isn't a 7. He didn't really perform the role that a Tom Christie can or that Matt Todd has previously, and they lacked a bit of that breakdown presence. And similarly with the outside centre role, Fainga'anuku is a great play, but not a 13. And even David Havili is not really a 12 naturally. He's more of a fullback that they've makeshift into that position. So they've got these great players on the field, but they're just not performing those roles. So this is a good chance for the Blues to strike. Their big issue is they've now lost Alex Hodgman because of the red card, and they're probably not going to have Tui Pilotu back. His neck injury seems to still be keeping him out. And they're 2 pretty important forwards when you look at that Crusaders pack. I think they probably could have matched them in the forwards had they had those guys there, if Tom Robinson's healthy and he can sort of match the back row. But my concern with the Blues is, again, they've got these great players. But when you look at that back row, Dalton Papali'i is not the best fetching 7 going around. They're probably better off using Blake for that role and having Papali'i come into 6 or the number 8 jersey, and maybe give Hoskins to a break, because he hasn't had the impact of 2020. He can come off the bench and sort of prove that worth and give that injection in a different way. So I'd be leaning for a Crusaders win, but until I see those team lists, it's hard to put much on it other than probably going unders for points. I don't think it'll be a blowout score like last time, and I think Crusaders will get up.
See, the unders line is 50.5. So yeah, interesting one. I remember I was actually on. I was on overs in the last game, because this will obviously also be a daytime kickoff. And I must say, as a points punter, I always get nervous going unders when when it's sort of sunny weather. In fact, I did it on the Hurricanes a few weeks ago and got badly burnt. So yeah, we'll have a look at this one. I'm also not that firm, but if anything, I am leaning towards the Crusaders on the handicap on this one. Anything else from you, conductor, before we move off this game?
No, Brent, nothing really sticks out to me there until we see some team sheets. No, I'll pretty much stick with that. What I've said there, and I 100% agree with Mitch. It's it's a tough. This actually should have been a crack of a game where with everybody fit but I think both teams are missing too many players for this to be a really fantastic game. And look, hopefully it's still a good game, but no, I won't be throwing huge money at this.
Listen, well, a couple more boys coming in on the live chat. Generally speaking, the Crusaders expected, I think, to bounce back a bit. Dave Cooney joining us as well. He says Crusaders and Exeter Chiefs on the board in a double. And, just looking at Chris is also saying Crusaders will win. He's not sure about how much. So that's certainly a prospect, is to stick the Crusaders there as your first leg into a double and move on from there. Just to mention, I do have the outright betting cruising down the bottom there. Crusaders obviously firm favourites at 4-10. And another bet thrown up there, the half-time, full-time Crusaders, that's currently priced at 8 to 10. But let's move on to the bread and butter of the man to the top right of my screen here. It's Super Rugby AU. I was just telling him before we came on air that, you know what, I've really enjoyed, in the past we've sometimes slated the Aussie rugby a little bit, but gee whiz, I think they really served up a good tournament. There's been the exceptions. The Rebels Force, I think it was hardly something to write home about. But this Reds team in particular, and credit to the Brumbies as well, there's been some great, entertaining rugby played. And we're in for a couple of big games. And Mitch, I'm going to start you off there. I just want to bring up the outright betting at the bottom. We've got the Reds here trading at around the 6 to 10 mark, the Brumbies around 15 to 10. Rebels and Force, of course, fighting for the other playoff spot. You can get 20 to 1 the Rebels and 36 to 1 the Force. The Reds are obviously favourites here. Do you think there's at 0.6 to 1 or $1.60, I guess it would be, do you think there's any value in backing the Reds, or do you think the bookies have got this right?
I think there is a little bit of value in those. I think those Reds games, that first game in particular, the Brumbies were the better team. And it came down to some James O'Connell leadership and, that I guess the luck of the bounce with Paisami's kick and Pattaya putting it down to get that try. But the Brumbies shouldn't be written off just yet. So I think if you can get, good money on either of them, if you see those team lists on the day and you're pretty happy to swing either way. But the Reds at Suncorp, their record's so good. So if you're getting any sort of, value for a bet, I'd be putting it on the Reds. Just that Suncorp fortress environment, you can't really replicate just the feeling of that stadium. And I was there for the last game with 20,000. It was huge. All the general stadium seats are sold out. So we're going to have 30,000 plus, I'd think. So it's just going to be a massive environment. I can't imagine the Reds going down for that one.
Well, when you said something about swinging either way there, for some reason, Brendan, I thought of couch critic there. But anyway, enough about that. Let's have a look at Force plus 8.5 against the Reds. Conductor, I'm going to start with you. This, to me, is an interesting game because, of course, you've got a Red side that have got a week off. But at the same time, they guaranteed their final spot. So mindset could be something where you've got a Force side that has got a realistic chance of making the playoffs because, if we'll get thoughts on sports comments later on the Waratahs game, there are people out there who believe that certainly the Waratahs have a chance of rolling the Rebels. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Brent, this is an interesting one. I think a lot of guys were saying, look, they're forced to keep it tight because obviously they've got a realistic chance of qualifying for the finals. But I've watched this movie before. Force is still very average against a red hot Reds team. And guys are saying, Reds have qualified for the final. 100%, they have qualified for the final, but they've played their best team available. No team wants to lose before the final. They want to carry the momentum. I saw Liam Wright during the week said he doesn't want to lose in the Queensland jersey. They want to carry the jersey through, be unbeaten, and I think the Reds have got more than enough to put this away by 8.5. 100%. People throw out individual names like Tony Pulu and Rob Carney, and I think Tim Ansie's been incredible. But then you've got guys like Jeremy Thrush is 36, Greg Holmes is 37. There's just too many rabbits in that team for me to be comfortable that hold that. Plus, I thought they were very lucky to beat the Tars last week. Tars should have actually just. If you just, I don't understand how dumb you are just to throw it to the back of one out when you
please.
Just like I mean, even if just throw it and some guy knocks it out and just hoops it out. I mean, why on earth would you throw it to your back jumper when you need to secure the game? I mean, that's just criminal. So to be fair, Force lost that game. Force scraped home against a very poor Rebel side. So, I think the Reds. I like that. That Tate McDermott to me at 9 is so incredibly dangerous, sniping around the sides. I thought about it today. I was driving home back from a meeting and I thought about the Reds and just guys like Harry Wilson, Liam Wright. They're just completely on the up. They literally, the trajectory is massive. They to me are the future of Aussie rugby, where you've got sort of a little bit of mercenaries in, the sort of Argentinians that the Force have brought in. Guy like Miotti, he's off to Europe next week. Next week probably because this will be the last game. But he's not going to die for the jersey kind of thing. So I like the Reds to cover there 100%.
Well, I'm going to get Mitch's comment, but you brought up a bit of a wound from me last week, which I tried to forget, and that was that Waratahs line-out throw at the end. I can tell you, I had stuff to do on Saturday morning our time, Mitch. So I actually, I recorded the game, and I stayed off all social media. You know what it's like. You can't even look at your WhatsApp groups and that because someone's going to comment on the result. And then I started fast-forwarding through this game, and I was watching. So it takes me about 30 minutes probably to watch the whole game. But I went all the way through, and I got to the point where, what was it, 30-28 or whatever it was. And I got to the point where I'm thinking, now the Waratahs are going to win. And I had money on the Waratahs. I didn't even take the handicap. I thought the Waratahs were going to win the game. I backed them straight up. I think I got 24-10. The Waratahs. I had a nice bet on it. And I thought I'm cruising. I could not believe that lineup. But anyway, I just had to have a little bit of a moan there on that one. But Mitch, what do you make of this game?
Well, I'll just chime in to say that my brother's a Waratahs fan, and so for him, that was just pulling hair out because he's had a tough season, and he was actually saying, like, we're finally there, boys, don't worry, we're going to get it. But agonising stuff for any Waratahs fan. Look, for this game, I think it's a tough one to call because this Force team are very proud, and they're playing, their last home game, whether they make the qualifying final or not. It's going to be their last game at HBF Park for this year. They're going to get up for it, but I still think the Reds are too good on paper. You look man for man, you look at the team as a whole, they've just got better attacking threats. They've actually improved their discipline a lot, which was their sort of Achilles heel for 2020. And I think they're really trying to build that momentum. We have seen teams previously sort of rest players or, not take it as seriously as they should in those last few rounds. The key example being the Lions, I think in 2017 when they gave up the home final to rest the players against the...
Yes.
So
they fired on them too in Argentina. When they went to Argentina, I remember that.
And I think that's something that Brad Thorne's probably observed and taken into consideration because he could have used this game to give some game time to the other players. But I like the team that he's named. I'd be backing very strongly on Filippo Daugunu to come out firing and probably get first try. I think the Reds should win 13+, but that home ground factor is going to be enough, I think, for the Force to keep it close, especially at the start. But the Reds, when you just look at the team, they've got the speed to get past them. So I think this should be a Reds win, and it should be fairly comfortable.
Yeah, interesting. You guys have got me doubting myself a little bit in this game. So I also didn't have a strong view on the handicap because as much as I do acknowledge the Reds are by far the better side, I wonder if at some point in the game there might not be an easing off of the gas. And I actually, when I did the Good for Game preview, I went Force over 18.5 points, so Force to get 19. But now that you guys are, and including the likes of Henrik on the live chat, they're quite bullish on the Reds. I'm actually thinking that under 48.5, I might be hitting overs in this game because, obviously fancy the Force overs and looking at all the sort of enthusiasm for the Reds. This could well be quite a free-flowing game, I believe. Although, I am nervous always on Force points because they tend to hog the position without scoring. But food for thought for me on this one. You guys are giving me plenty to think about. But Mitch, we'll stay with you as we move on to the next game. The Waratahs, who are coming off that brain-dead line-out last week, plus 7.5 against the Rebels side that, am I right in saying the Rebels have the destiny in their own hands, Mitch? I mean, if they win this game, they will go through to the playoff.
This game will be interesting for them because if the Force beat the Reds, then it's game over regardless. So they're going to be watching for that Friday night game just to check what's going on for them. But yeah, if the Reds win, which they should, then this is entirely up to them. They don't need bonus points. They just have to get the win. But that's not something they've been good at. They've had so many, I think they're up to 3 games now, where it's come down to the last sort of 5 minutes. There's been an action in there where they could have won the match and they've, missed a kick or they've, made a really costly error. I just don't think this Rebels team has the composure to win those sorts of games. And I do back the Waratahs to win this because they've actually shown the better form of progressing nicely. They've shown some consistency with the locks, which they still look terrible, but they're improving. And the Lalakai Foketi and Izzy Parisi center combo is actually, yielding quite sweet fruits. They're attacking quite nicely. And it's probably going to be this week that I actually see one of them getting over the line and getting a bit more points on the board. But yeah, again, to me, the thing that could swing it is the inclusion of Brad Wilkin and Isi Naisarani in the back row. Brad Wilkin's the best fetcher they've got in their team. He's great over the ball, and he's played a lot of, linking games as a schoolboy player and as a junior. So he's got really nice hands and can keep the ball alive. And I think that ties in pretty well with Isi Naisarani. We saw him come off the bench last week and I think he made about 5 runs for 20+ meters. He was getting involved in the tackles as well. And the thing that I like is he gets that ruck presence and does the pick and drive and gets that forward momentum that they normally rely on Corin Betty for. So if they get Naisarani doing those plays, they can have Corambetti out on the wings where he's more effective and hopefully get him over the whitewash just for one try this season. But I can't get over the Waratahs just in their improvement. I think the pain of getting so close twice in a row is going to get to them. I think they're going to get this one. I'd be going the 1-12 margin. It's going to be tight either way.
Yeah, 1-12 could well be the way to look at this one. I can tell you, and I'm going to bring up Neil's bets after we get the conductor's comments. Neil, at Thoughts on Sports, is particularly bullish about some bets in this game. He's getting seriously involved. What do you make of this one, conductor?
Yeah, Brent. So before we hop onto this game, I just wanted to sort of backtrack to your point about the outrights. I've taken Reds 0.7 because that to me is basically a finals price. 7 to 10. I'll take 7 to 10 in Brisbane with pleasure. Like Mitch said, I saw today on Twitter guys are saying the upper tier tickets are now being sold out. So it sounds like there's going to be a good crowd in there. And I'd like to see a changing of the guard in Aussie rugby. I'm incredibly tired of Brumbies, Ronnie Moore winning rugby. I saw it was a stat, I think, last week. I think 60 odd % of their tries come from Ronnie Moore's. And I want to see that change. I want to see I still remember that Reds game versus the Crusaders when that Will Genia scored an absolute stunner from 55, 60 meters out. So, it'd be good for Aussie rugby to be a bit of a mix-up. So I've taken a 7 to 10. I like that a lot. I think Brad Thorne has invested in the team. The guys are showing him what he's actually invested in, and I can't see them losing at home. So that's my I like that bet. In terms of the Waratahs Rebels, I don't know if you've ever played the game Championship Manager, the football game, and whenever you're about to get sacked as a Championship Manager, that always say that the board has faith in you. And I saw Dave Vessel's got that message this week. So, yeah, I think the writing's on the wall there. I think Davey Vessels has run his course there. Guys are saying he doesn't have the players, but I disagree completely. He's got enough. He's got a lot of talent there. I think the basis has been very poor by the Rebels. They look like a team who just not have faith in their coach. And I like they may win it, but I like the Waratahs to keep it very close. And I'll take Waratahs on the board as well. Yeah. Like you say, Isa Parise, the 13 jersey for Aussie, sure. I mean, I don't know anybody else. Maybe I don't know if they'll choose Pattaya at 13, but he's got to be a definite candidate for 13 for Aussie jersey there. I was super impressed with him last week against the Force. He was literally driving forward. He was breaking tackles at every turn. The physicality looks like the physicality from the Tars has been upped a lot. It looks like there's a different grip to them. So I'm happy to take the Tars and the plus, and I'll definitely take Tars on the board there.
Well, let's quickly have a look at Thoughts on Sports bets now, and tell me if you think he's getting involved in this game. Super Rugby AU bets, you'll notice they're all on one game. Waratahs plus 8.5. Waratahs 1-12. Waratahs to win on the board. And, that's pretty much, the bets of the weekend. But then he also likes, that should be Waratahs over 19.5. So that's a typo from me there. And he likes Rebels under 28.5. So if he takes all of that, he's got 5 bets on one game. So, conductor, I think this is make or break for our man Thoughts on Sports.
No, I know that a certain person's involved in this game. I like the plus on the Waratahs. I prefer the Waratahs overs to the Rebels unders.
Yes.
I like them to score some points there. Totally against the Aussie game run of form. I think it's I've got it in my mind the referee, but he's generally an overs ref for this game. So I'm hoping for a good game here, and I think the Waratahs will want to actually just have a great game in front of the Sydney crowd for a change and repay the faith.
Excellent. Well, just a reminder before we say cheers to Mitch, because he's going to pop off before we talk about European rugby. You can go down. I've got it scrolling down there. You can subscribe to our newsletter, see what our best bet is. We haven't been on the best of run, although last week I did hit the 12-1 accumulator player bets to sort of make back some money for us there. But let's hope we can come right tomorrow. I've got a feeling the Waratahs might just feature in that best bet, and you can also follow the Good for the Game forum there as well. But Mitch, that brings us to the end of the show. Any further comments from you, and what is your sort of best bet or that you think stands out?
Look, I think after talking through all of this, the one that sticks out the most is just that one at the end from Thoughts on Sports. I like Waratahs plus 8.5. I think that's a really great bet. And if you're going to use it as a multiplier, that's going to be quite handy, because I think it will be a tight game. And I like that he's bundled that in with Rebels under 28.5. They've only scored above 25 points once this season, so they're not renowned for their try scoring. And the Tars do look a lot better in attack. Whether they've got Harrison, Donaldson, they'll have Donaldson this week, but they've got really accurate kickers. So, if they're knocking over penalties, I see them going over 18.5. So I'd give my full support to Thoughts on Sports bet there. And, of course, put all your money on the Reds. They're bringing it home.
Excellent. And just one thing before you leave, I see the Crow Tips mentioning here, Korobetti is due a try. And you and I were quickly chatting before we came on air. I mean, the Rebels just don't create chances for him. Eh? I mean, he's really just been almost a pick and go merchant. He pops up on the sides of mauls and, in fairness, makes a yard or two, but then you don't have him out on the wing where you need him. Do you think he can cross the whitewash this weekend?
I think he should do, and he's due. And this is probably his best chance, because Alex Newsom hasn't had the best defensive season. If he's going to be able to give a chance to run down his wing, he's going to relish that, because he's got probably 15 kilos on him at least. He's broken a lot of tackles against bigger wingers this season. I can't imagine finishing a season without one, and I'm not that confident they're going to make the final. So I do back him to get a try. Unfortunately, it's not good money despite his run of form. But if you do find somewhere that does anywhere over, I guess, 2-1, you'd be pretty happy to put some money on him to get a try.
Excellent, Mitch. Well, we're going to say cheers to you there, because we're going to talk about a Rainbow Cup and Gallagher Premiership. But yeah, really appreciate you getting up at the crack of dawn there, Australian time, to talk to us. We look forward to some weather reports from Brisbane in the final, and definitely have you on the show again soon. But it'd be great to get the Australian perspective, and have a good day as we go off to sleep and you go off to work.
Awesome. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on, guys. And see you later.
Cheers, Mitch. Cheers, mate.
Excellent. Mitch, thanks very much. It was great chatting to Mitch, and also without any of the sound problems we had last time, really made it very enjoyable indeed. But Brendan, let's go on to the Rainbow Cup then. It's not quite what we were hoping, I guess, because this was meant to be the tournament that saw the South African teams playing against the overseas teams, and we won't go into the details of why that's not taking place. But the South African teams aren't even playing this weekend in the end. If I understand correctly, things have sort of been pushed out a week. But I can tell you the Irish guys on the chat are starting to get excited already. Mark could say Leinster v Munster on Saturday. I know Dave's already mentioned this. Well, I saw Dave was on it. I don't think he mentioned this game yet, but I'm sure he's excited for the big game as well. But let's go through them. I don't know if I've got them in the correct order, but I'm going to start off with the Edinburgh minus 10.5, and perhaps any thoughts you have on the tournament itself. I mean, is this actually a tournament? Is there a winner of this tournament? I haven't seen any outright betting.
Brent, I think it's still very much in the air. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, from what I've read on Twitter and from all the statements, I think SA Rugby and the Pro 14 guys literally exhausted all options to make it work. It wasn't really a situation where they just let it collapse. As far as I understand, SA Rugby paid £500,000 per team commitment fee. So that is a signal that the guys wanted to play. I mean, they didn't want it to collapse. So as far as I understand, they exhausted all options to make it work. It just didn't work. Very lucky for the Stormers, because I would have been spanked tomorrow night, but that spanking has been delayed by a week. So we'll catch up next week. But no, Edinburgh minus 10.5. Edinburgh fielding a very inexperienced side, this Zebra. Richard Cockrell said he wants to give the guys who haven't had much of a chance to play a chance in this game. So I'd probably stay out of it. I'd probably lean slightly towards Edinburgh minus 10.5. The Zebra are just a bit awful, but I wouldn't throw huge money on it. Edinburgh just missing too many of their stars. Even if they'd fielded their first team, the minus 13.5 would have been a walk in the park, but I'd probably stay out of this game.
Right, well, just to bring your thoughts on sports, he says he doesn't fancy much in the Rainbow Cup, but he says watch out for the weather. He reckons if we have good weather, we could have some nice points in the Rainbow Cup. And I tend to agree with him there. I almost wonder like we had, the Pro 14 actually dished up some quite nice high-scoring games as well. But I almost wonder if it's a bit like, we went from the Curry Cup to the preparation series in South Africa, and I wonder if some of the teams may not treat this perhaps a little bit more loosely. We might get quite a bit of running rugby. We'll see about that, though.
No, I disagree. I hear what you're saying, and I disagree completely. And the reason being is that a lot of these guys are playing for Lions Cup spots. So I don't know if they're really gonna, a lot of these guys, European teams are really, sort of angry for that. So I don't know if they're gonna, slip that tackle, etc. Make a poor pass. I don't know how many of the Lions spots have actually been predetermined or are fixed. I know a couple of these spots are open, so I just think a lot of guys have been playing for those last couple of spots. So I think there'll be a lot of seriousness in the South African series and in the European series as well. For guys that are undecided, I think more on the South African side of things, because there's a lot of players in the South African fold that could be included. Rassie likes to think outside the box. He picks guys with skills. He picks on form. Yeah, so I wouldn't say hugely overs in some of these games.
Right, let's go on and have a look at the next game I've got up here, and that's Ulster -8.5 against Connacht. I know this game was down for quite a while with a few of the bookmakers, and I think it still is. I got this at Player Bets, and I gather that because there's quite a lot of doubt about team selection. I don't know if those teams have been selected yet. Any thoughts on this one, Brendan?
Yeah, they have been selected, Brent. So I think the bookies were very hesitant to try and put the pricing up because they weren't sure whether or not Ulster would do a complete turnover as a rest for the game against Leicester next week. But they've named a very strong side. I won't be touching this game purely because of the commitment next week. But I just said the bookies didn't want to release early because they were unsure of what was going to happen. It's definitely, for me, it's difficult to determine the level of determination on Ulster. They've still got a very strong side. Connacht has named a similarly strong side. I probably lean towards Connacht in the plus. They're incredibly unreliable. They are like a flipping Tata Indica. You never know when it's in a breakdown. You just don't want to trust them at all. But Ulster, for me, let's say you chuck money in Ulster -8.5. Everything's going fantastically well. They look up by 10 to 12 points with say 30 minutes to go, and they realize that, well, they know that they've got a big game next week, and they just sub guys like a flood. And then you just get, youngsters on, and Ulster win by maybe 2-3, and your bet's sunk. So I'd rather stay away from that game.
Right, next game, Benetton +7.5. Mark making the comment in the live chat that Benetton have been very disappointing this season. They're +7.5 against Glasgow.
Yeah, Brent, without seeing team sheets, I like this. I like the -7.5 there. I agree with what Mark said. Benetton have been incredibly disappointing. I think Italian rugby as a whole, besides for their women's team, which has actually been great, the men's team have been absolutely poo. I cannot understand how Benetton. I don't know where their talent's going, but Benetton just cannot convert their talents into results. I like without seeing the team sheets, I like the Glasgow. I like the Glasgow side there. Sorry, the team sheets were up. Sorry, I'm lying. The team sheets are up. It's a bit of a mix and match Glasgow side, I think, from what I can recall. I think. Sorry, Brent. No
problem. If you have anything more, we'll come back to that one. But we can move on to the next one. Ospreys -3.5 against Cardiff.
I like Cardiff there as well. For me, far more settled. Ospreys. I don't know what team they're in the name. I know Alan Wynn he's getting a bit long on the tooth. George North, those kind of guys. But Cardiff to me just seems like there's the more impetus. I really like their 10. I just can't remember his name. He's a really, really good youngster. He'll be shooting for the number 10 in Wales soon. Ray Lilo and Holo at 12 and 13. I like them. Josh Adams at 14. I like the Cardiff team there.
Cardiff on the plus. Then the big game of the weekend, without a doubt. It's a repeat of the Pro 14 final. And here we got Leinster -6.5 against Munster. And gee, Leinster was so impressive in that final. And Was it against the Exeter Chiefs that they were so impressive when they were 14-0 down? I think you won quite big on that game, Brendan.
Yeah.
-6.5 this game here. I mean, it's hard to go against Leinster, isn't it? I haven't seen the teams or anything, but I just don't like to bet against Leinster.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch that game with a barge pole, really. Leinster, I mean, Leinster can basically lose that game and probably the next 2 or 3 games and still win the Pro 14 with ease. I think their main focus is La Rochelle next week away to France. I think what they'll do is they'll give the guys. So I mean, they've obviously had the problem with the Pro 14 guys now in the European Tour Champions Cup is obviously they had the break now. I think they'll use this as a sort of a run out for the guys. Let the guys have a bit of a training ground run for the team, and let the guys have some ball, have some feel. But I can't see them taking it seriously. I'd probably take Munster on the plus here, to be honest. Munster don't have anything else in the cupboard. Leinster have a far bigger game next week. I know Leinster don't like to lose at home, but they've lost at home to Connacht. So I'd probably take plus 6.5 here. I just think a guy like Leo Cullen will just be so incredibly smart. He won't want to risk any of his players. He'll rotate nicely. Just get each guy 20, 30 minutes on the park just to have that impetus against La Rochelle.
Well, I'm going to go on to the last game and I'm going to say, Jules, don't worry. I saw your comment earlier. Your beloved Dragons are playing. I'm going to bring up your comment now. The price I got there at Player Bets was Dragons plus 3.5 against the Scarlets. And while the conductor's talking, I'll bring Jules's comment up on that one.
Sorry, plus 6 on that.
Oh, the plus 6. I don't know where I got 3.5. Let me have well, I know where I got it, but
you're all right. It is 3.5.
Yes.
No, it is 3.5.
Oh, okay.
I've taken 3.5. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Dragons. I mean, look, they showed that a lot of grit last season or the last sort of time they were out. A guy like Aaron Wainwright is absolutely fantastic for them. They've got a good couple of flankers, really, really solid. But I see Ashton Hewitt is out with a bad knee injury. Nick Tompkins is back to the Saracens. I just don't know if Jamie Roberts is at his full tilt. I just can't shy away from the Saracens. From Scarlets, sorry. I think Reece Patcher will be back at 10. Jonathan Davies will be back. I think they'll want to bounce back from that very, very poor sale performance. I think they'll know that's not their quality. For me, I very much like Scarlets minus 3.5, and I like Scarlets 0.55 on the board in a multi.
Jules, there has been money for your team. Their opening plus 6 is now plus 3.5, but the conductor is going for the minus 3.5. And I noticed when I talk, the conductor quickly grabbed a drink to get it in because we did realize last week that when I have him as the only guest, I do interrupt some valuable drinking time of his there. Let's move on to the Gallagher Premiership. And the first game we're going to chat about here, there's been plenty of money on this one. I know the likes of Thoughts and Sports, and I think of yourself, son of a punt. The boys all got on early here. It was sort of 9 to 10, the pair available, Bristol against the Exeter Chiefs. The Chiefs are now firm favourites in this game at around 5 to 10, and you can get plus 4. There's plus 4.5 Bristol. The question is, do you still get involved with these lines?
Yeah, Brent, I think the better money was that the early money was, I think, Exeter at 0.9 or 0.95. I don't think I'd be involved at minus 4.5. I'd probably take Exeter 0.55 or 0.6 or 0.5 in a multi. Bristol, it's just not their best team. Missing guys like Hughes, Semi Randrandra, who's so pivotal for them. He's out. Callum Sheedy, I cannot understand. This is the only thing I cannot understand about world rugby is that Callum Sheedy, who was subject to a massively late hit last week in the back with no arms tackle, he couldn't feel the left side of his body, and the other guy only got a yellow card. And this guy is going to miss a couple of weeks of rugby. So
I saw that tackle. Yeah, I saw that tackle. It was shocking. Yeah.
So
he subbed did actually very well. That came on. I believe he was also coming back from injury.
And he's on the bench. But Max Mannins is more than good enough to sort of take his role. But it just feels as such to me that the Bears have got the eyes on bigger things. That Exeter side is very, very, very hot. Very, very good Exeter side. So I like the Exeter side at 0.50 in handicap in a multi. I love them there.
Excellent. Well, let's just go thoughts on sports. He did say he got the 9-10, the Chiefs, early in the week. He says he would still take the -4.5. He's also considering an unders play, but he's a little bit wary because Wayne Bonds is the ref, and in thoughts and sports words, he's the biggest overs ref in Europe, so be careful of that one. Let's move on to the next game then. London Irish +7.5 against the Harlequins. I think this line has moved out slightly from around +5.5.
Yeah, Brent, this was a bit of a silly price. I think when it opened, I think it was -5.5 when it opened. And I have no idea why. Quins have been in sublime form. They've been smoking guys left, right, and centre. They took a week break before the game against Worcester Warriors. So I cannot for the life of me seeing why they would rest any of the guys here. So they'd play by far their best team here. Guys like Andre Esterhuizen have been phenomenal for them. Walker Lowe, Joe Marler, they've got a very, very strong pack. Danny Kerr, like I said, I think last week, the Danny Kerr and Marcus Smith combo have been absolutely deadly. And we don't know if Augustine Creevy will be back for London Irish. So I cannot see them living with this team. Yes, Quins do league tries, but they score for every try they scored against them. They score 2-3 tries for. So I'll probably go points over here, and happy to take that -6.5.
Right, the Crow Tips is going for the cap on the Quins as well. And just to mention thoughts on sports, he says Quins -6.5 still available, and Quins at around the 15 to 20 mark. So Quins popular selections there. Let's move on to a team we never seem to talk much about. Worcester. I know they're not the most impressive bunch. They're +11.5 against a Sales side that will no doubt be packed with South Africans.
Yeah, there's no doubt there. There's no doubt there, Brains. I don't know what to make of the Worcester side. They just seem absolutely horrendous. I mean, like I said, I think I've said on the show before, maybe last week or the week before. I don't know, that the blackouts with the drinking for me, it makes it tough to remember stuff. But I don't think Worcester have won a game.
I'm amazed at how you remember all the team names and the players' names.
That's ingrained, Brent. Not even like the Buffelsfontein brandy will remove that. No, I don't know if the Worcester have actually won a game this year. They're absolutely horrendous, and they kept at a fantastic form last week. I can't see them keeping pace with Sale. If I look at Sale on the Gallagher Premiership board, Sale need the points and would dearly love 5 points. So I understand they're missing a guy like Lourdes Diaga, who apparently threatened his surgeon last week. He said, because apparently he tore his meniscus. So Lourdes Diaga said to the surgeon, "You better have the best surgery of your life, or else there's going to be issues." So yeah, because obviously Lourdes wants to be back for the Lions tour. But I really can't see Worcester. I guess a guy like Francois Hugi, he has a bit of grits and stuff, but cheesy, and the rest of that team are absolutely powder puffs. I mean, they just give it up. I think they're very fortunate. There's no elimination this year because cheesy and they've been poor. There's nobody in that team I'd actually say there's anybody decent. It's maybe Quinal Dupree is not bad, but holy gamoly, they are a poor side. So I'd probably angle towards the on minus on the Sale.
Well, I'm going to read between the lines there and say that you don't like this Worcester side much. Right, Gloucester -9.5 against Newcastle.
Yeah, Brent, I like Gloucester there. They're just having shone under Skivington. Guys like Louis Rees-Zammit and Johnny May, just too classy to be kept in a cage. They need to be playing better rugby. They're actually in a decent 10. I think it's Barton, if I'm not mistaken, is at 10 for them. Is a youngster under 20s England youngster. They just need a really, really decent youngster, a really decent 10 there, and they just haven't got it. You got a really good fullback for them. I think they should put this away. To me, I like Gloucester -9.5. Newcastle was smoked last week by the pace and power of a Bears side that wasn't at full
But
strength.
Newcastle actually started strong, eh? Didn't they also go
They
like
did,
14
yeah,
nil
they
up or
started
10
strong,
nil up
but
or something?
they
But I mean, in
started-
the end, I agree they were blown away.
Yeah, but Brent, if you record, if we go back to my previous comments in the last week's show, you'll see I said exactly about the longevity of small teams like Newcastle and London Irish competing in European and Gallagher Championships. They just don't have the legs. And I think this is where it's going to come back to bite Newcastle. Look, they're not going to, they don't have an issue. They're not going to be relegated. So what happens if they lose? Nothing. And I think Gloucester will be playing for a bit of pride. Yeah, I think that they're too good not to put a good performance together. So I like Gloucester -9.5. Yeah.
Right, in the final game of the weekend, as we move into best bet territory, we've got the Wasps -3.5 against Bath. And while you're chatting there, I'll bring thoughts and sports bet up on this one.
Yeah, friends. It's funny how like sometimes you put a bit here, put a bit there, put a bit here, until you find yourself so heavily invested. You're like, how did I get so heavily invested? I really like Wasps on the minus, and I like Wasps on the board. I was super not impressed with Bath last week. I thought they're incredibly poor against Leicester side. But one must take into consideration Leicester were incredibly good at the breakdown. It didn't allow Bath to play. The Bath pack does worry me. 5 to 10 meters away from the line, it's almost impossible to stop them with guys like Sam Underhill, Zach Mercer. And what I would have loved is Alfie Barbary back for Wasps, but he's injured again. I don't know. I don't know how to read Wasps because I see Lee Blackett was basically saying the last 20 minutes of the performance was the worst he's ever seen from a rugby team. I see David Flatman on Twitter was saying the last try that Stuart Hogg scored was the most despicable try he's ever seen against a rugby team, where basically the entire Wasps side gave up. So, one or two things can happen. Wasps could actually just roll over and be like, listen, guys, we are crap. We're not responding to the coach, or have a massive blowback. I favour option 2. I think they're all going to have a bit of a blowback. I like them to beat Bath, yeah. Bath haven't been all that impressive to me. They were down to Zebra, who are horrendously rubbish with the full team. So I like Wasps on the minus, yeah.
Right, I know Thoughts and Sports likes the Wasps there, and I think he thinks that Bath might rotate the squad a bit, if I remember correctly there.
Yes.
That brings us onto the best bets on the card. Now, Brendan, we've talked a lot about the rugby, about a lot of games, and we got Mitch's thoughts on best bets. But what is your best bets of the weekend? You're more than welcome to give me a couple.
Oh, brains. Like a scorn ex-girlfriend, I'm gonna trust Tars. They're gonna be. I can see Tars being 21-0 down, but I'm gonna trust them. Plus 8.5. I like the Tars. Will be by far my best bets. That's this.
Excellent. Tars plus 8.5. There's plenty for me to ponder as I put together the newsletter for tomorrow. I was flying high a few weeks ago. We were going for 5 in a row. Thank goodness hit the ACCA last week to sort of steady the ship a bit, but just been on the wrong end of results of late and looking to bounce back quite solidly. Well, Brendan, it's been great having you on the show. You can relax now and finish your drink there. And to all the boys who joined us in the live chat, we had a great turnout tonight. Always enjoy your comments and contributions in between us. Let's make sure we hit those bookmakers. You can log on to goodforthegame.co.za, have a look at the forum there, see what the boys think, read the previews, and we'll see you next week. Possibly I might be getting a guest host for the show next week because I'm at Sun City for the week, but I might just do it from there as well. We'll see how things go. But anyway, we'll see you next week at 9 o'clock for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters.
Good boys.